With the arrival of Amazon's new TV show and their recent portrayal of Galadriel, I thought I could consider what the quote-unquote right way of portraying her power could look like in an on-screen adaptation of the Second Age. It's not the easiest task, considering Tolkien's magic system is a very soft one. It's ill-defined, and you can never really be sure how any character is able to use magic in a given scenario. But with the goal of getting Galadriel to actually feel like the second most powerful Noldor elf ever, without violating the ethos of subtlety in Tolkien's magic, let's take inspiration from Tolkien's work and try to make a consistent magic system for her character. I don't believe Peter Jackson's portrayal of her magic in The Hobbit is the correct way to go about it. The Lord of the Rings films are far more like it, of course, and certainly not Amazon's troll soloing fighter. But let's see what kind of mental picture I can paint, and you can let me know what you think in the comments. On perception and foresight. Seeming at first to be an unimpressive power, I think that Galadriel's perception and foresight would be the most engaging and intriguing of her powers. We see some of this kind of power in The Lord of the Rings. Galadriel is able to look into the Fellowship's minds and see their deepest desires. Note that reading the contents of someone's thoughts is only possible if they are willing. But reading the nature of those thoughts seems to be a different kind of thing. In The Lord of the Rings, characters like her and Elrond take a back seat to the Fellowship, and this kind of stuff fades into the background. With Galadriel as a main character, however, it would be ever present, and affect the people around her at the deepest level. Imagine the fear of traitors or other evildoers in her presence. Imagine the unsettling feeling of walking around an elf that can foresee your doom, whether it is near or far, and perhaps its nature. Think Glorfindel foretelling that the Witch King's death is far off, or Finrod foretelling the destruction of Nargothrond. And we know that at some point Galadriel is able to acquire an entire device for telling the future in detail. On the cost of magic. One of the top considerations for any magic system is going to be the costs and limits associated with using magic. In this case, I think that the cost/limit should be time. I'll take the example from the story of Beren and Luthien. Luthien is able to send Morgoth to sleep with her magic. Earlier on in the story, when she is attacked by Sauron in his wolf form, she is only able to cast a spell of drowsiness upon him. I think the difference is how much time she had to work with in each case. Sauron attacks her swiftly, whilst Morgoth listens to her sing for a while until he is sung to sleep. So we have a simple rule: the greater the magic, the longer the prep time. On weather magic. In the year 2510 of the Third Age, when Eorl the Young rides to Gondor's aid, his army is shielded from the eyes of the enemy by a mist that Galadriel conjures. If we take control of the weather on board as one of her powers, especially considering that it is speculated that Sauron is responsible for making the pass over Caradhras impossible, then we could combine that with our rule about more time for greater magic and have Galadriel be able to make a mist in a shorter time, but an entire storm could take days of preparation. Even mist alone is one of those things that, while it seems small, it can have a great effect on the story. Armies or scouts could hide their approach and their numbers. The burning of forests could be slowed down by having the air be damp before the approach of an oncoming army. It's subtle, it isn't exactly Storm from the X-Men, but it still has wide-reaching implications. On magical disguises. Because both Finrod and Luthien have the ability to disguise themselves and others around them as other creatures, and it's stated kind of casually, I feel like I could be easily justified in giving Galadriel this same power, even though it isn't mentioned. She is after all Finrod's sister, and even Maedhros and Maglor are described as having disguised themselves when they steal back the Silmarils from Eonway's camp, but that could just be a normal non-magic disguise. Again, it's not Scarlet Witch level crazy telekinesis, but it can definitely make a big difference in the story. On counter magic. Lastly, she will be resistant to other magic or sorcery and be able to undo their spells in the way she undid the spell that held together the foundation of Barad-dûr. I think all of this is enough to convey the idea that Galadriel is the second most powerful of the Noldor without turning Middle-earth into the MCU. If you have any ideas about my approach or the statements I've made, I'll be really interested to see them in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more videos on Tolkien's lore.